The raid that went too far. You never expect your morning to begin with a full-blown alien invasion, especially not in suburban Denver. I was still in my slippers, coffee half-brewed, when the sirens blared. Not the kind you use from tornado warnings or Amber Alerts. These were shrieking with frequency that made my teeth hum and my gut clench. Then the skies cracked open. 3 anti-grav transports descended from the clouds like mechanical hawks, wings bristling with plasma turrets, engines howling against Earth's air. The neighborhood kids, half of whom I coach in Little League, were just stepping off their school shuttles when the alien squads touched down. At first, no one moved. No one could comprehend it. The Zyrak Coalition, or whatever pompous name they called themselves, had declared Earth a protective reserve years ago. Interference, contact, even observation were banned under their own precious intergalactic concord. But that didn't stop them today. I watched from my window as armored aliens, tall and insectoid with compound eyes like polished obsidian, burst from the transport. Their rifles hissed with neurostatic pulses. One blast dropped poor Marcus Rivers before he even had time to scream. Not killed, paralyzed, stunned, easier to transport. They weren't hunting adults. They were seizing kids. My kid, Ellie. I barely remember sprinting outside, or how I managed to snatch up my grandfather's old rifle from the garage wall. It was barely a hunting tool, but I wasn't going to let my daughter vanish into a starship without a damn fight. A Zyrak warrior turned toward me as I sprinted across the lawn. Its mandibles clicked in surprise. Halt, primitive. It barked through a translator. I didn't. I fired. The slug ricocheted off its armor, but the impact made it stumble. Another shot. This time I aimed low, right at the joint. It went down. I didn't wait to celebrate. Ellie was in the arms of another soldier, thrashing, screaming for me. Dad! Dad! That scream broke something in me. I moved faster than I knew I could, the kind of speed that comes when your world is about to be stolen from you. I got to her just as the ramp was closing. I hurled the rifle like a javelin and tackled the alien, holding her. We crashed onto the ramp, and suddenly I was inside the ship. The door sealed behind us with a hiss. Everything went dark. When I woke up, I was shackled to the wall of a containment cell. Ellie was curled beside me, shaking but unharmed. The room was sterile. Smooth metal walls glowing with alien circuitry. The air tinged with ozone and antiseptic. We were in orbit. I could feel it in my bones. The strange lightness of partial gravity and the faint vibration of fusion drives humming beneath the hull. And then I heard it an argument. 2 Zyrak voices, filtered through universal translators, echoing from beyond the wall. You fool! You seize human children? Do you have any idea what you've done? They are specimens. The Council will understand once the data is presented. Their physiology is... The Council won't care. You abducted offspring from a death world species that regularly survives extinction events. You didn't just poke the hornet's nest. You dumped napalm on it. That was the moment I realized something vital. They weren't scared of us because we were advanced. They were scared because they weren't ready for what comes next. And they should be, because they didn't just kidnap Earth's kids. They kidnapped human kids. And now they've got a father on board. Containment breach. My head still throbbed from the stunned pulse, but pain didn't matter. Not when my daughter was sitting next to me in an alien prison cell, clinging to my side like she did when she was little and afraid of thunderstorms. Dad! Ellie's voice was barely more than a whisper. Are they going to take us away? I gritted my teeth. Not if I have anything to say about it. I scanned the cell. Sleek walls. Seamless seams. No door handle. No keypad. Just a single pulsing blue sensor high in the corner. I remember enough from military debriefings to know it was a biometric scanner tied to a containment AI. Translation? I wasn't getting out unless someone authorized it from the other side. But there was something else. Something the aliens didn't understand. Humans adapt. Ellie, I said quietly, remember those puzzles we do? The ones with mirrors and lasers. She blinked confused, but nodded. I pointed to the blinking sensor. I need your help. 10 minutes later, Ellie stood on my shoulders, holding a shard of reflective plating weed pried off the bed frame with a broken piece of pipe. I shifted beneath her, knees aching, palms sweating. "Almost there," she muttered. A focus beam from the scanner flared to life as she tilted the shard, redirecting the pulse, just like our little logic puzzles. The beam bounced off the makeshift mirror and struck the wall panel just above the emitter. There was a soft click, then a hiss. The wall irised open like a blooming flower. I caught Ellie as she jumped down. "You did it!" Her grin was pure human defiance. "Told you I'm better than a computer." We moved fast, staying low in the humming corridor. The ship was vast, clearly designed for long-range science expeditions. Every hallway glowed with ambient purple light, and thin translucent screens floated in the air, filled with diagrams of human anatomy, Earth fauna, and to my fury, footage of playgrounds, homes, and families. They'd been watching us for years. As we reached the junction, I froze. Footsteps, chitin scraping metal, a Zyrac patrol, 2 of them. I yanked Ellie into a recessed alcove, pressing her against the wall, heart pounding. The patrol approached, their alien language clicking rapidly between them. Are they aware of the retaliation protocols? "They will retaliate, of course," the second said in monotone. "But they are slow, inefficient, tribal. They eradicated the Martokan Confederacy in 3 years. That was an accident. Still eradicated them." They paused right in front of us. I had no weapons, no plan, just a broken pipe and a child. And fury. The moment the lead alien turned, I lunged. The pipe connected with its knee joint, and it crumpled with a screech. I grabbed its shock baton and jabbed it into the second one's throat. Sparks flew. Both collapsed in a heap. Ellie stared at me, wide-eyed. "You used to tell me violence wasn't the answer," she said. I handed her the shock baton. "Right now it's the question. The answer is yes." We followed the corridor to what looked like a command deck, a massive circular room filled with holograms, control nodes, and a sprawling display of Earth's orbit. My stomach twisted as I saw the truth. They weren't alone. 3 other ships, cloaked, all of them orbiting Earth. Waiting. Waiting for what? Then I saw it. A timer. Extraction protocol. T-minus 4 hours. They planned to take more. Hundreds? Thousands? I didn't know what triggered the alarm. Maybe my presence. Maybe Ellie breathing on the wrong console. But suddenly the lights flashed red. A voice rang out over the intercom. "Containment breach. Subject has escaped. All units converge on Deck 3. I looked down at Ellie. "We need to break something expensive." We raced toward the engineering deck, following the signs in Zyrac runes and a rough schematic I'd ripped from a wall. The path was clear, too clear. No patrols, no obstacles. That's when I knew they were herding us. Right into a trap. We stepped through a bulkhead, and it slammed shut behind us. A force field crackled to life, trapping us in a chamber lined with what looked like electrified pylons and gas vents. The walls shimmered, and a Zyrac commander materialized, flanked by 2 sentries. Its armor was obsidian black with gold filigree. Its mandibles twitched in something like amusement. "You are unusual," it said. "Most species cry, beg. You resist. You fight." I stepped in front of Ellie. "Welcome to Earth's welcome package. You are a parent, motivated by genetic proximity. Understandable. I'm motivated by the fact that you took my kid." The Zyrac spread its clawed hands. "And yet, you are aboard my ship, outnumbered, unarmed. Shall I crush your rebellion before it begins?" I grinned. "You didn't read Earth history, did you?" I grabbed one of the gas vents and ripped it loose. The pipe burst, spewing ionized vapor. I swung it like a bat into the nearest pylon. Sparks exploded. The force field blinked. The commander shrieked. Ellie screamed, "Dad, now!" I grabbed her, dove through the flickering field, and ran. As we fled, klaxons howled, machinery overloaded, and lights sparked. I didn't care. I'd seen enough. This wasn't a science mission. It was a harvest. They weren't just studying our kids. They were preparing to use them. For what? I didn't know. But they'd picked the wrong planet to start with. The species that fights back. I don't remember how many corridors we ran through or how many alarms we triggered, but somewhere between the second plasma leak and the third bulkhead override, I realized something important. This ship wasn't just breaking. It was scared. Every AI interface flickered with system errors. Navigation control locked and unlocked like it was panicking. The ship wasn't just failing. It was reacting to us. To me. To my daughter. Humans weren't supposed to get this far. And yet, here we were. 2 Earthborn creatures, 1 adult and 1 kid, breaking through a Zyrak deep space research vessel armed with nothing but a bent pipe, a stolen baton, and a grudge the size of supernova. Dad, Ellie panted as we skidded around another corner. What now? I scanned the blinking wall map we'd passed. 4 decks above, Command Nexus. That was where we needed to go. If we could disable the ship's primary comms or route a distress signal, we could at least warn Earth. Or better, now, I said, pulling Ellie toward the access shaft. Now we pick a fight. The climb was brutal. Emergency ladders weren't made for human hands, and halfway up, I slipped, my shoulder smashing into the rungs. Ellie helped me up. She didn't whine, didn't complain, just grit her teeth like her old man taught her. The girl had iron in her veins. We reached deck 0 and slipped into a crawl space above the central atrium. Below us, dozens of Zyrak moved in ordered chaos. Technicians adjusted containment pods. Officers barked orders. And in the center of it all, projected in full holographic scale, was a human child. Not Ellie. Hundreds of them. File images. Real-time scans. Some of the kids I recognized from our neighborhood. Some I'd only seen in school pickups. All displayed like test subjects under a microscope. Ellie choked back a sob. My hand found hers. They're cataloging them. I murmured, traits, behaviors, emotional reactions. She swallowed hard. Why? Then I saw it on one of the consoles. Lines of translated code, labeled Phase 2, Genetic Behavioral Extraction. Target, Youth Adaptability Metrics. Goal, Integration into soldier templates. I stared in horror. They're not just studying us. I whispered. They're planning to copy us. Or use us. Splice adaptability into their own species. Our kids are templates. A new voice chimed in below. A Zyrak scientist raised his head. The sample subject escaped. Retrieval has failed. Another hissed. Deploy Neural Hunter drones. Lock down all decks. No more running. I dropped from the crawl space before Ellie could stop me. Right into the middle of them. The sound echoed like thunder in the atrium. Every Zyrak froze. I raised the shock baton. You want templates? I said, voice shaking from fury. Then take a good look. They advanced. I slammed the baton into the nearest console. Sparks exploded. Systems surged. The projector overloaded and blasted static through the command hub. Panic. Ellie dropped beside me, clutching a jagged tool like a dagger. Together, we darted through the chaos, past the stunned officers and scrambling techs. I grabbed a plasma cutter from a fallen worker and jammed it into the fusion regulator on the master terminal. Dad, that's gonna blow. Ellie cried. Exactly. I yanked her behind me and triggered the overload. The core detonated with a roar of fire and light. We awoke in a side corridor. Smoke choked the air. My head rang like a cathedral bell. I could barely see, but I heard Ellie coughing beside me. Still alive. The central hub was done. We had maybe minutes before the failsafes kicked in and the whole ship tried to reset, which is why, when the intercom crackled to life again, I knew the voice wouldn't be human. You are unlike the others, it said. You are chaotic, destructive, unpredictable. You kidnapped our kids. I rasped. What did you expect? A negotiation, a dissection, a species afraid of consequence. I pulled Ellie to her feet. Then you should have started with a textbook. We reached the hangar by following the emergency escape signs in reverse. Same system used in old Earth bunkers. Security was tighter now. Armored units patrolled the gantries and drop bays. But they weren't ready for a frontal charge from a furious human. We didn't sneak. We roared. A side panel burst open under my stolen plasma cutter, and I dove into the hangar controls. Ellie sprinted toward the nearest shuttle, small, unguarded, fast. But the Zyrak were faster this time. The commander stood between us and the shuttle. His armor smoked from the earlier explosion, one arm limp, but the plasma glaive he held pulsed with deadly precision. "Your species will burn," he said, "and no one will mourn it." I stepped forward. No one who ever touched a human child has lived long enough to speak of it. We fought. He was faster, trained, armored, but I was angry, and humans fight best when everything's already lost. I rammed the cutter into his exposed side and held it there as plasma hissed through his carapace. He screamed, and I dragged my daughter past him into the shuttle, blood in my mouth, fire at our backs. The engines kicked in. We launched. Through the burning hangar bay, through the outer hull, into vacuum. Ellie's hand was in mine, trembling but strong. Behind us, the Zyrak ship reeled, engines failing, fire chewing through its central decks. And above Earth, cloaked ships began to move. The invasion had begun. But this time, they weren't facing scientists. They were facing parents. They were facing humans. Earth responds with fire. The stars blur around us as a stolen Zyrak shuttle screamed toward Earth's atmosphere, its inertial dampeners whining under stress. I had one hand gripping the stick, the other holding Ellie steady in her seat. The panel was lit with warning glyphs in a language I didn't understand, but the meaning was clear. We weren't supposed to make it this far. Behind us, the command ship burned, a wounded animal in orbit, but above it, the real threat stirred. 3 more cloak vessels began to break formation, shimmering like ghosts as they powered up weapons arrays. "They're not letting us go," I muttered. Ellie pointed to the rear display. "They're launching drones." The screen lit up with angry red markers. Swarms of hunter-killers, sleek, obsidian things with tendril-mounted cannons, were en route, faster than our shuttle could maneuver. "Dad, they're going to catch us." "No," I said, flipping open a console. "They're going to catch this." I rerouted the fusion core, set the autopilot, and turned to Ellie. "Get to the pod." Her eyes widened. "What? We're abandoning ship? We're turning it into a missile." We launched the pod just seconds before the shuttle ignited. From the viewport, we watched it streak toward a swarm of pursuing drones like a comet, and then explode in a cascade of white-hot plasma and burning shrapnel. 2 dozen drones vanished instantly. The rest scattered. But it wasn't over. The other Zyrak ships saw what we did and responded. From orbit, they opened fire. The Earth defense grid activated like a beast stirring from a long nap. For years, the Council thought Earth was underdeveloped, backwater, primitive. We let them think that. We let them watch, because we knew something they didn't. The only thing more dangerous than a human at peace is a human who knows they're being hunted. Orbital defense satellites flared to life. Kinetic rods launched from bunkers hidden in the Rockies. Hypersonic interceptors streaked skyward from undisclosed locations in Siberia, Australia, South America. Lasers cut the sky open like God's own scissors. One Zyrak ship was obliterated before it could blink. The second lost shielding in a direct EMP blast and tumbled, venting atmosphere and fire. The third managed to retaliate, but it was too late. Humanity had stopped being prey. We had become predators. Our pod crashed somewhere in northern Alberta, Canada. Cold, hard forest, snow in the trees. Ellie shivered as I helped her out of the wreckage. But we weren't alone for long. Chinooks roared overhead within minutes. Then boots on the ground, black armor, visors down, UNSDF insignia blazing under shoulder lamps. One soldier pulled off his helmet. Captain Lewis, former orbital recon. I recognized him from the briefings back when I still worked on the defense integration project. "Took you long enough," I muttered, trying to keep from collapsing. He blinked. "You're the guy who boarded the Zyrak ship?" "More like crashed it." His eyes went to Ellie. "You okay, kid?" She nodded, her jaw set hard. "I hit one with a wrench." He smiled. "That's the most human sentence I've heard all week." Back at base, codename Coldwell, hidden deep beneath an icy mountain. We were rushed through decontamination, scanned, and given temporary clearance. I was patched up. Ellie got a blanket, Coco, and her own security detail. Then they took me to the war room. It wasn't a name for drama. It was what it was. Screens tracked Zyrak movement across Earth orbit. Satellites updated enemy positions every 3.7 seconds. Generals, scientists, diplomats, all watching a slow-motion war unfold. I stood before the giant display, like I just stepped out of a myth. Where are the other kids? I asked. General Baker looked at me grimly. Still on the remaining ship. We estimate over 300 human juveniles across different species collection pods. And we're letting them orbit our planet? We were trying to avoid escalation. I slammed my fist on the table. They took our children. Escalation happened. What we do next decides if we survive it. Silence. Then someone new spoke. A small, silver-skinned alien at the edge of the table. A council liaison. Nervous. Almost guilty. They violated the intergalactic concord, it said. The Zyrak command acted without sanction. But Earth's retaliation has already caused waves through the galactic network. I turned to it slowly. Let me make this very, very clear to you. If any more human kids vanish, we won't just retaliate. We won't just defend. I leaned in. We will hunt. We will find. And we will break anything that touches our own. That day, Earth activated Protocol Ironlight, a contingency plan hidden even from most governments. We didn't go to war the old way. We didn't march. We launched. Within 6 hours, 1,200-class stealth ships departed from shadow ports across Earth's crust. The objective was clear. Recover every child. Eliminate every threat. Leave no trace. The galaxy thought Earth was still divided, still vulnerable. They forgot what humans do when you take from us. We don't plead. We don't wait. We respond with fire. The children of Earth don't break. We always taught our kids to be kind, to share their toys, to use their words. But we also taught them something else, something ancient, something primal. We taught them how to endure. And the Zyrak were about to find out what happens when you try to break a species that refuses. I saw the first footage just hours after Coldwell Base went dark. The Zyrak had moved their remaining child captives to a facility deep within one of their outer colony moons. Draziel 7, underground, shielded from scans. They thought no one would find it. But Earth's new fleet, the Ironlight Protocol, we found it in minutes. We launched in hours. Ellie sat beside me in the ops room, wrapped in a heavy military-issue jacket 3 sizes too big. Her hair still smelled like smoke, but her hands no longer trembled. She watched the footage in silence. It started as a rescue op, quick, surgical insertion of strike teams, silent takedowns, plasma doors bypassed, corridors mapped. Then they found the kids. They weren't just locked away in cells. They were watching, in rooms like classrooms, surrounded by hollow displays, observed through glass. The Zyrak were testing them, pushing limits, sleep deprivation, emotional stress, forced confrontations, fear stimuli, everything to see what made a young human brain tick and snap. But there was one problem. The kids didn't snap. They helped each other through it. They blocked the doors so the smallest could sleep. They figured out the test cycles and rotated turns on who got zapped next. One group sang lullabies in 4 different languages just to keep spirits up. A 7-year-old disabled a monitoring drone by bouncing a shoe off a motion sensor and jamming a utensil into the vent. A 10-year-old used food trays to build a makeshift barricade. And when the Zyrak brought in a creature meant to scare them into submission, a 9-year-old girl named Maya walked up to it and hugged it. The thing froze. So did the guards. She just looked up at the security glass and said, "You think this scares us? We're from Earth. Why aren't they breaking?" A Zyrak technician hissed in one of the intercepted feeds. "Their cognitive structure should have collapsed by now." "Impossible," another muttered. "No species adapts this fast." Then one of the kids looked right at the observation camera and gave it the finger. Ellie snorted beside me. "That's Marcus," she said. "He's always like that." We breached Razil, 7:0300 ship time. The Iron Light squads came in from all sides, drop pods piercing the atmosphere like falling stars. They didn't bother announcing themselves. They didn't need to. The entire base erupted in chaos. And the moment the Zyrak opened the cell block doors, thinking they'd use the kids as bargaining chips, the children rushed them. They didn't run away. They charged. They threw plates, chairs, anything not nailed down. One 12-year-old tackled a Zyrak scientist and bit him on the mandible. Another led the younger ones through the vents and into the shuttle bay, where they jury-rigged a launch override. By the time our teams arrived, the kids were already halfway through escaping on their own. "I don't know whether to give them medals," the strike team commander said, "or take notes." Back on Earth, the footage went viral within minutes. We didn't leak it. The kids did. They hacked into the broadcast relay aboard the Iron Light recovery ship. They tagged the footage with #EarthKidsDon'tBreak, #Come and Try. And that night, across hundreds of planets in the galactic web, a message spread faster than any official declaration. You can study humans. You can threaten us. You can even abduct our children. But don't expect them to be weak. Because the thing about Earth kids, they grow up watching floods, fires, and riots. They learn to walk in disaster zones. They learn to run from nothing. And when you try to tame them, you'll find they bite back harder than anything you've ever met. The Council tried to mediate after that, tried to call for calm, but it was too late. Every time a Council representative condemned Earth's retaliation, someone would post another video of a 6-year-old escaping a containment unit by removing a panel with her braces, or a group of boys playing Prison Break, using real security protocols they'd memorized from observation. One girl recited entire troop formations from memory, just because she was bored. "They're terrifying," a Valari analyst said in one panic transmission. "You didn't breed a species. You bred a resistance." The Zyrak fell back, hard. First, they blamed rogue elements. Then they claimed cultural misunderstandings. They even tried to return the last few captives on a diplomatic shuttle, hoping to save face. We didn't accept it. We intercepted the shuttle, rerouted it to Earth orbit, and forced every Zyrak diplomat aboard to witness the data we'd recovered. The images, the experiments, the fear. Then we made them listen to the children's testimonies. Every scream, every act of defiance, every moment those kids refused to break. And when they were done, Ellie stepped forward, looked the Zyrak leader in his multiple eyes, and said, "You're lucky it was just us. If you'd taken our moms, you'd be vapor by now." To be continued in Chapter 6. We're not afraid of the galaxy. They're afraid of us. We're not afraid of the galaxy. They're afraid of us. The Council chambers were once a place of diplomacy, a marble spire floating in the silence of neutral space, echoing halls in pristine peace. Every species in the known systems had walked those floors at some point, petitioning, arguing, debating the future. But today, they shook with fear, because humans were coming, not with weapons, not with threats, with evidence, with children, and with a truth the galaxy could no longer ignore. We stepped into the council hall, Ellie beside me, dressed in a navy blue uniform issued by Earth Command. She didn't look like a victim anymore. She looked like a witness. Behind us were 6 other children, representatives from each of the recovered groups. Some still bore healing scars. One limped, another wore a sling. But their eyes burned with something no council species had ever seen in the eyes of youth: conviction. The council high speaker, a feathered being with glowing eye ridges and a voice like dripping water, tried to open the session with civility. We acknowledge the transgression committed by Zyrak factions. It began, and offer condolences for the trauma inflicted upon the juveniles of Terra. I stepped forward, my voice steady. You don't get to offer condolences and walk away. Not this time. Murmurs echoed. Earth's response has been disproportionate. A green-scale gravity hissed. You've destabilized regional power structures. Enacted unilateral military action. Do you mean to frighten Council? No, I said, stepping aside so the kids could step forward. They do. Ellie didn't wait for permission. You thought taking us would break Earth. But it made us stronger. Another child, Mateo, age 9, lifted his arm to show the healing grafts where electrodes had once been. You shocked me for 6 days. I still remember the pain. Maya, the youngest, held up the claw she'd taken from one of her captors. I still have his tooth. I sleep better now. There was no rage in their voices, only certainty, the kind that terrifies those who rule by fear. The Varkathi ambassador leaned forward. You must understand, young ones, no species has ever resisted Zyrak evaluation. It was believed to be impossible, a biological certainty. You should have broken. You keep saying that, Ellie said, but have any of you actually studied Earth? Silence. So she leaned in, her voice calm but lethal. We survived ice ages and firestorms. We learned to run from lions, then taught them to sit. We built cities in deserts and danced on the moon. You think pain breaks us? She looked around the hall. It builds us. Back on Earth, the broadcast was live. Billions watched the moment humans didn't just stand before the galaxy. They shook it. We hadn't declared war. We hadn't asked for apologies. We'd sent message far older than words. We're not afraid, because we were forged in fear. Our kids learned to walk while sirens howled. Learned to think during lockdown drills. Learned to grow in a world that never stopped burning. What could the galaxy possibly do to us that we hadn't already done to ourselves? Later that night, back on our Earth-based flagship, Ellie sat beside me on the observation deck. You think they'll come after us again? She asked. I looked at her, really looked, and realized something. She wasn't asking if we'd survive. She was asking if the galaxy would ever learn. They might, I said, but they'll think twice. She nodded, quiet, then asked, Are we going back to school after this? I laughed. You just helped lead a diplomatic reckoning that made intergalactic history. I think you can skip math class for a bit. She gave me a grin, but it faded. Dad, did we scare them too much? And I paused, because beneath all the defiance, all the courage, all the human fury, we were still the ones trying to belong, to be understood, to be more than just the galaxy's nightmare. Maybe, I said, but maybe being scary is what keeps us safe now. She looked back at the stars. Then I hope they're scared enough. What came next wasn't war. It was something stranger. Respect, the kind given to predators. Treaties were redrafted overnight. No more unauthorized contact with Earth miners. No more secret research. And the Zyrak, the entire species was sanctioned, stripped of council standing. Their leadership was tried by interstellar court, with human children testifying. A first in galactic history. Yet, even as the galaxy adjusted, Earth began its own evolution. Humanity learned something too, that we were not fragile, not behind, not quaint. We were terrifying. And maybe, just maybe, that wasn't flaw. It was a gift. Earth is not to be feared. It's to be respected. You'd think it would end there, with the trials, the punishments, the policy shifts, with the council whispering Earth's name like it burned their tongues. But this story wasn't about vengeance. It was about recognition. Because in the end, the galaxy didn't fear us because we were violent. They feared us because we survived what should have broken us. And we did it with our children in hand. The council's restructuring took weeks. But Earth didn't wait. While they argued protocol, we built alliances. We opened our first human-led interstellar justice division, staffed not by generals, but by teachers, diplomats, and yes, a few very brave kids who had seen the worst and still believed in better. Ellie became one of them. It was strange, watching her sit on panels beside beings older than our pyramids, her boots swinging off a high diplomat's chair. Stranger still when she corrected a Zyrak scholar on a point of law. Article 9.4 of the Concord Accord was amended after the Draziel 7 incident. She said, calm and steady. You'd know that if you actually read what we wrote. And the council listened, because she wasn't a threat. She was proof. Proof that Earth's children didn't just survive. They grew stronger. I was offered a seat on the Earth delegation soon after. Declined it. I'd had enough of watching through screens and ship glass. I wanted to feel dirt again. Gravity. Home. But before I left, they gave me one last tour of the new Defense Archive. Room after room of captured tech, data analysis, reverse-engineered alien systems. At the end of the hall was a simple black wall, etched with 300 names. The names of every child taken, every child returned. At the bottom, in Earth Standard and Galactic Common, it read, "You touched what you shouldn't have. You thought they were weak. You forgot they were ours." The message had echoed louder than missiles ever could, and the galaxy responded in kind. Species that once ignored us sent emissaries. Cultures that once mocked us sent envoys. Even the Valari, who once considered Earth too volatile for council standing, formally requested a human-led education exchange. Their request began with 5 adults. It ended with 25 students. Why? Because they heard about the Earth kids, and they wanted to learn how we raise them. Now, when a new race makes first contact with Earth, they're given 2 things, a welcome packet and a warning. Do not harm the children, because Earth remembers. And Earth does not forgive easily. But most importantly, Earth protects its own. I live quiet now. Small town, a little garden, a cat named Gravity. Ellie sends me videos from orbit. She's working on the next iteration of the Juvenile Protection Accords, trying to make sure what happened to her never happens again. Anywhere. She's 19 now, but she still keeps the wrench. I still remember that first alien who grabbed her, who laughed when I asked for her back. I wonder where he is now, if he ever understood what he'd triggered, that the moment he laid a claw on a human child. He didn't start a war. He awakened something far worse. He reminded Earth what it truly was. We are not the strongest species, not the oldest, not the fastest, not the smartest, but we are impossible to break. And we protect what's ours with a fury the stars will never forget. So no, Earth is not to be feared. Earth is to be respected.